Good morning. I am Steve Weber. Welcome to the American Gumption Morning Show. Today is Tuesday, September 28th, and it's show number 218. I've got 3 shows scheduled this week. I only did 4 shows in all of September. I was just checking. So I did about one a week for the last, just each week, and took a little bit of a break, but it really wasn't a break. There's been a lot behind the scenes happening that I will be announcing soon. And so, in fact, I'm even in my remote location, or one of the remote locations that I've been broadcasting from, and I'll be here this week. So all good things happening behind the scenes, and I'll share that just as soon as we let the cat out of the bag. But good things are all happening. And so anyway, 3 shows coming up this week. So tomorrow, Sean Bracey joins us, and we're going to talk about, he started out, got his chops in music production, but then he discovered the speaking world, and he creates basically albums for speakers, for inspirational people, and he takes their content and he puts like the greatest hits together. And so we're going to talk about basically showcasing your best talent. So that'll be tomorrow on the show, Sean Bracey. And then on Friday, I'm going to interview Robert Palmer. Now, not the Robert Palmer from the music world. He's not with us any longer on planet Earth, but Robert Palmer is a writing coach and lives in Michigan, I believe. And I attended one of his seminars not so long ago, and we just really connected. So I'm excited to talk about writing, and specifically writing to clarify your thinking, and to set your goals, and to line up where you go. So I feel like he's a soul brother in terms of what he's doing with helping people write. And I kind of discovered it on my own over the last 10 years. So I'm excited to have that conversation. So that will be fun. That's coming up this Friday. All righty. And so so I do also have a monologue prepared today. Well, I almost always have a monologue, and I'm titling it Trust Your Inner Wisdom. Trust Your Inner Wisdom. And it's our guest, Sarah Sparks, coming up in just a few minutes. She's going to talk about a course that she has, Inner Wisdom. And that's really what she does, is helps people to learn how to trust it. But I'm going to share my own story of how I kind of learned how to trust my inner wisdom. So that's what we're going to just jump right into now. And then we're going to get to Sarah Sparks, our guest. And she was with us about six weeks ago, or maybe just a little over a month ago. Alrighty, so this monologue, Trust Your Inner Wisdom, is really a follow-up on a monologue that I did back on July 30th, and that was show number 208, and it was titled, the monologue then was titled, You Stopped Trusting Your Intuition. You stopped trusting your intuition. And it was also that first time that Sarah was the guest on the show, so she's back again today. So anyway, I'm just going to recap quickly what that monologue was all about. Then I'll let you go back and hear the longer, juicier version of it. But basically, here's what how I came to realize that I had stopped trusting my intuition. So back in 1982, I had just moved to California. I was working there for less than a year, and I was called into the office for a performance review. And they told me that they liked what I'm doing, and that I was a very valuable member of the team. But they also told me that I was suffering from delusions of grandeur. I was suffering from delusions of grandeur. I did not know. I was 22 or 3 at the time. I didn't know what delusions of grandeur meant. There was no internet, so I couldn't even look it up. Well, I looked it up. I found out somehow or another, either what it meant. And it basically means that you think you're more important than you are. And that was a devastating blow for me. I didn't necessarily, I didn't like getting that feedback. I didn't go, oh, this is great. I went, oh my gosh. And I'm like, how did I make that mistake? And I tell that whole story about, how it came to be, that I was operating on instinct and not really focusing on, my analytical skills as much, and just like because, and I tell that all in the last monologue, so you can go back and listen to that. But basically, found out, okay, suffering from delusions of grandeur. Well, this was a painful experience. This was something I didn't want to repeat, and so I essentially made the decision to not trust my intuition, and that I would become analytical, and I would be someone who crossed all his T's and dotted all his I's before he, did things, so that he didn't make that mistake again, so that people then think I was suffering from delusions of grandeur. And so anyway, that's sort of what happened. Is I said, and again, this wasn't something that you write down and you go, oh, I'm going to no longer be analytical, or I'm no longer going to trust my intuition. It just sort of, it's all chatter up inside of your head, and you're playing it, and you don't talk about it to anybody because it's embarrassing. And so anyway, that was what happened. Is I just I reprogrammed my subconscious to just not trust my intuition. When I would hear that little voice inside my head that was, connecting to higher source, I go, hey, no way am I paying attention to that. Or actually, what really turned out to be the case was I would hear it, and then I would attempt to rationalize it and justify it by thinking it over and going through it. So I became a very analytical person. And over the years, I heard people tell me things like, hey, has anybody ever told you you're kind of stuck in your head? Anybody ever said you're an overthinker? So I had heard those things, many, many times. And so I told a friend at the time. We had breakfast, and this is okay. So, oops, I'm skipping part of it. So in 2009, I went and I attended a series of personal development courses by Landmark Education, and they have a thing. They have one of their modules is called your strong suits, and you have 3 primary ways of being. And I've talked about this different monologues. So I'm not going to go through that whole explanation, but your 3 strong suits come into play at different times in your life: when you're a child, basically a preteen or a young teen, and then when you're a young adult. Well, this was my 3rd strong suit, the becoming a thinker or an analyzer type of person. So analytical, being analytical is not a bad thing. It's just a question of, like, if you're overly analytical, and if you stop trusting your instincts. So that's really that's how the story came to be. So I told a friend, I was having breakfast with her, and I told her that this whole story, and she said, she just blurted out, she said, you stop trusting your instincts. And I hadn't even realized that I stopped trusting my instincts up until that moment that she said it. And isn't it funny how when someone says something and it's just the core of the truth, you know it, and you can never, you can never go back to not knowing or not understanding it. And so when she said, you stop trusting your instincts, I was like, oh my gosh, exactly. And so I just knew that. And then I began the process of like re-engaging with my instincts, and with like paying attention to that like inner voice, that inner knowing, the inner connection to the higher being, to divine source. And I started paying more attention to it. And as the years have gone by since then, this was back in 2014 when that happened, when she said, you stop trusting your instincts. I've been tuning that up in the last couple of years. It's like, it's almost like a meter dial. You can just sort of volume, turn it up and turn it down as necessary. So I think that's most of the story that I wanted to talk about. Oh, I wanted to. So in our last interview with Sarah, she talked about, and she's going to talk about her course, the Inner Wisdom, and it's a 12-week course that she's teaching, and it starts again next week. So you'll want to go visit her website and learn more about it if this resonates with you. But basically, she has the ability to get right to the nub of it. And so in my particular case, the nub of the issue was not trusting my instincts. And there was a whole bunch of pieces that needed to get put in place. I needed to kind of identify that original story of the delusions of grandeur from back in 1982, and the fact that, that delusions of grandeur story kind of prompted the whole analytical and over analyzing, and then you're stuck in your head and you're doing this whole thing for years and years and years, and all this is a program running, and you don't even, you're not consciously doing this, it's just happening. And then the series of webinars that I attend, or seminars I attended back in 2009 with Landmark Education, and it's like, oh my gosh, you start putting these pieces together, and then a couple of years later, when you're finally going public with it and you're sharing the story because you're no longer embarrassed by it, and you tell a friend, you share it in confidence, or we share it with a friend, and she says, hey, you stop trusting, and then you stop trusting your instincts, and boom, you know it, and then that's the truth. And so Sarah has that ability to get to the nub of it, and without having to necessarily go through years of therapy. And she talked. She said she doesn't like the onion theory where you peel back the layers, and I kind of agree with her. I know what she means. You want to get to the nub of the issue, like, okay, not trusting your inner knowing. But what happens, at least in my case, and I'll be, we'll talk about this, Sarah and I will, these layers still keep coming off whether you want them to or not. And it's just funny how they show up. Now the difference is, as you've begun to do this work, is that first, unless you know what the core issue is, you're never going to be able to start peeling layers off. And unless you get that first the outer shell, the crusty, hard part, that's hard to get off. But once you get through that first one, those inner ones tend to peel back a little bit quicker, and they just show up. At least this is my experience. They show up from time to time, and boom, there they are. And you just peel back a layer, and then you're like, oh my gosh, and you kind of go with it. So anyway, that's where I do like the onion analogy and the peeling back the layers of this knowledge. So anyway, I think that's going to wrap up the monologue. I see Megan, who has been helping me peel back layers, is joining us this morning. So thanks for participating. All right, let's bring Sarah onto the program. Hello, Sarah Sparks. Welcome back.
Hello. Thank you for having me, Steve.
Yeah. So, hey, welcome back. So the last time you were here, we did the whole bio, and we did the first time guest theme song. So this time we're gonna go away with all, or we're gonna forgo all that. We'll just jump right into the juicy topic of inner wisdom. How's that sound?
That sounds good. Let's talk about it.
All righty. So, I guess we could start out with the course, but let's not do that. Let's just dive right into some of the good stuff, and then we'll circle back around to the course. And let me put your information up here while I'm thinking of that. So, Sarah Sparks, Inner Wisdom course starting next week. Is that correct?
October 11th on Monday.
October 11th. So a week from this Monday. So there's time for people to go to sarahsparks.love and read all about it, and send you a message with questions, or just sign up to be there, huh?
Yep. They can sign up right there on the page. But if they want payment options, or if you want, who is this Sarah Sparks gal, and tell me more about this program, we can have a clarity call. So no problem.
Okay. Well, we'll talk a little bit about who you are right now, so that so that people will know. The course, it's a 12-week course. It's limited. It's not like it's a group session, but it's not like hundreds of people. Just tell us, give us the overview of what it's all about.
Yeah, Spirit said that there are 8 men and women, and sometimes it's just women who come into my groups, but Spirit said, no, this time we need to open it up to men, because men are wanting to also blast through any self-doubt and tune into their inner wisdom. So I said, cool, awesome. So there are 8 people who the program is for. I connect with Spirit on all of the questions, all of the details. So I use my own inner wisdom. As soon as I let go of my inhibitions, my worries, my concerns about being spiritual and woo-woo and all the things, and I truly led with my soul, which is what I teach, and I amplified my inner wisdom. Everything I teach, I put into action. My business tripled and then quadrupled and continues to grow. It's really like I use it for everything. So this course, I just go through it and I'm like, all right, Spirit, what does it mean to be your true self? Why would someone want to amplify or align with their true self? What does that even mean? Why would they want to? What concerns does this course solve for people? What's going on with them? How are they feeling? What are they experiencing? What results does this time together, this experience provide? And so I just sit down and I ask the questions. The 5 steps that I always share are to listen to your divine guidance is allow, ask, receive, trust, and act. And so I just make myself available. I ask the questions. I receive the answers. I trust that it's from spirit because I've built that. I've done diligent work on making myself that clear channel. I've gotten to the core several times. And then I act on it. So, being on here is taking that aligned action, posting, or I just, right before I hopped on here, the group that I did a 3-day masterclass in, Spirit's like, hop on there and just give them a message. And so I do. So what I say is aligned action for people to take is the thing that they've been being nudged to do, been guided on, been whispered to. They feel like they're being pulled in that direction. It could be, hey, you need to eat an apple for breakfast. Nope, I don't want that Pop-Tart. Nope, your body's telling you nope, nope, nope. And then you grab it and then all of a sudden you have a stomach ache. So that's your inner wisdom, knowing what it is that you really want. So when there's a couple different types of people who come to me. So some are very well advanced, have done all the things, have studied all the things, are very connected to source. They're all in. And so that's a whole nother group. That's a whole mastermind. The people who are coming into aligning with their true self, and amplifying that inner wisdom, getting to know this, they have an awareness of their inner wisdom. They have self-doubt. They question things over and over and over. They're probably like you were, the overthinker, worried about some things. Also, like when you were talking and doing your monologue, the thought that came to me was, why? So when we do tune out our inner wisdom and we don't trust it, why don't we? And so when I did that, I was seeking, when I tuned out my inner wisdom and thought, no, that's crazy, that's dumb, no one's going to believe me if I just tell them blah, blah, blah. I wanted acceptance from others. I wanted approval from others. I wanted to fit in. I wanted to belong. I had a lot of self-doubt. So through my own experience, through my connection with divine, spirit, inner wisdom, whatever anybody calls it, Spirit's given me 9 guidelines, 10 tools that I teach, I provide. So it's everything that I've learned in the last 15 years put into 12 weeks. So wow. I believe that no one needs to suffer. So if they're wanting to accelerate that process and step fully into who they really are, so their true self, one's true self, my true self, your true self, is that soulful you, who you've been. We all come as energy, as souls, and we're either chosen to come to this earth at a certain time, or we chose. So we were chosen or we're chose. And we're placed in this body, and Spirit, God has given me this responsibility, quote unquote, gift to share with people, to connect with another soul and share with them why they're here. Why did their soul come into their body? And then from there, how do I live that out? How do I live with purpose and meaning? How do I let go of who I thought I really needed to be, and truly start taking responsibility for my own life and moving forward and creating the life that my soul is really craving?
The idea that we choose to come and into this lifetime, or we're chosen to come into this lifetime, but with our consent. This is really a new idea for me. Just in the last year, really since doing this show and from having these conversations, has that become like loud and clear for me. And I wanted to contrast that to 10, 12 years ago when I started this, it was like there wasn't people talking about this. You were considered a bit of a nut or a kook if you talked this way. And so maybe for the person who's just like beginning their journey, talk about the fact that, hey, the water's fine. It's a safe place. Come on. And it's time to jump in and get on board with all this. I mean, what would you say to somebody who's maybe just a little bit like, hey, is this like their inner self is like calling them to do it. And yet there's like that fear of the way things had been, this, fear-based world that we've lived in, which is kind of hopefully going away soon. So yeah, we're in a really changing, shifting world right now.
Yeah. So the people who come to me are already ready and committed to making that change. There are people on this doing this work that are here to convince somebody to make a certain change or change their mindset or whatever. That's not my responsibility. So people who come already aren't afraid of it. They might be fearful of, or like, how do I do this? But they're not questioning, like people who come to me aren't questioning what I'm saying is true or whatnot. They already have that awareness that, I've suffered enough, ready for this change. So those who are at that space, I can speak from experience because I have been there. You could go down the route of why am I so fearful? Well, we are limitless beings with limitless possibilities. So if we would ask why am I fearful? Why, like, is this really true? Is this conspiracy true? Is that conspiracy? Whatever was going on inside of our heads. I spent a lot of time trying to start from the outside and peel that onion. Like you were saying that that was my analogy, or that's the analogy that I used. And I can just say that as soon as I read this quote by Albert Einstein, and I always kind of butcher it up, and I probably said it during the last one, is you cannot solve a problem with the same thought process that created it. Something along those lines. I spent over 7 years reading self-help books, feeling this nudge, having dreams. I had the dream that I usually share with people. I had that every week for an entire year. And then I turned off my inner wisdom. And that's when my whole life kind of went. So, and that right there is a technical term, that sound. I'm just joking. But anyway, so for that individual who's like, wow, you mean I have a soul? I mean, I know people, I'll just say people that think that what I do is crazy or whatever, but I'm more connected and married to my soul's calling than what other people think. So for those who are questioning that, there's other people out there that will help them. Those who come to me already have awareness that this is where they're supposed to be. They've been nudged. They have been called on. They have popped on this live. They've seen me on my own page. They've seen me on Instagram. They've seen me somewhere, and Spirit, God, Universe has been like, you need to connect with her. She's the answer to your prayer. So I just trust that.
You mentioned that some of the people are further along on their journey than others. The group, it's a combination of both those groups of people. Is your class, correct?
Yeah, for sure. There's still some. So yes,
everybody's
that's
at the
usually
wrong level.
that's usually how it winds up. And I always reiterate to the people who are like, oh, I'm just starting this journey, and so much further along. I'm like, we're all on our own path. We're all on our own journey. Literally, I took my own course that I share with people 4 and or 5, I can't remember, times since I started my business. So I take the information and I elevate to it and I live it out. And then if there's another thing that I feel a little bit off on, I shift and I move and I realign with who I really am, because our soul is already forgiven. It's already moved forward. It's our humanness. And I know that some people are not going to get what I'm saying here, but let's say, for instance, there is this conscious you. You're very much aware of, like, I am thinking about things, and my conscious mind is, I am saying affirmations and moving forward. And then the subconscious is working on its own, and it has elevated where your true self, your soul self, is like, yeah, I forgave that person that you're still thinking about from second grade. I forgave it like the day that it happened, and I've already moved on. Can we bring you up to speed? And so that's what working together does, is letting that humanness, that overthinker, that worrisome go, and let the past be in the past, because never creating and moving forward, never bringing the past with you and looking backwards and wondering who you've been, bringing that with you to create the future, that has never worked. And I don't know if I'm saying that correctly, but like, let's say, for instance, if I want to be like, I just want to be the same size I was when I was in high school. So I'm going to think that's never going to work, because now you're completely different. I'm a completely different human than I was when I was 18. And so I can't think about when I want to go back to that person. I have to be, who am I creating now and moving forward?
One of the advantages that I've always experienced from working with a group of people is it's a mirror for yourself, and it shows the growth that you've gone through. And we like to, we sometimes think of ourselves as small, or not like having advanced very far. And when we have conversations with other people and we can see, the path that they're on, it sometimes reveals how much we've grown, but we haven't recognized or been able to acknowledge. And so I always find that to be helpful, and sometimes surprisingly, because it's like, you think, oh gosh, I haven't really proceeded that far in this awakening, or this awareness or consciousness, however you want to describe it. And yet all of a sudden you go, wow, it's like, no, I've actually, this has been fun. And it makes it more fun when you realize that you have had the success and the increased awareness.
Yeah, for sure. I just had that awareness yesterday. We've had the opportunity to purchase a house. It all just kind of happened. I put it out there to the universe of what it is that we want. And because of the work that I'm doing, because of me saying yes, that I'm all in, because I'm aligned with my true self, I know that I'm always supported and always provided for, and it is proving true. Like, so in the outside world, not just some voodoo, yay, I'm going to meditate on it, because I continue to take that aligned action.
Mm.
And because I know I'm always supported, I always am. And so, yes, it's a mindset thing, but it's also a belief, and it's a knowing. And when the awareness, understanding, and knowing are all aligned, it manifests. And there's this level of faith that starts to happen. And my intuition and my inner wisdom that is telling me everything about this house, and like, my husband is also in tune. So that has been super awesome, creating this and just seeing everything unfold. There's this part of also manifesting what it is that you truly want, comes also down to gratitude and living in that. There is a massive amount of gratitude that has been poured over me in the last few days. Just, wow, like, this is happening. And I've always said that the house that I buy next is going to, I'm not going to cry, is going to represent the hundreds of people that I've gotten to work with. It's true.
Wow. Well, congratulations on that. That's like seeing it in action. You said something though about action. Yeah. We do, going back to your Albert Einstein quote, we can't solve the problem the way it was created, using the same type of thinking.
Yeah.
So there has to be like it has to start with a change in thinking, a change in energy. But then
Yes.
talk a little bit about the action that follows that thinking, because we can't just,
Yeah.
we are physical beings, so we do need to do
Mhm.
certain physical things. So does the course get into that too? Does it get into
Yeah, for
taking
sure.
action? Yeah.
Yep. Yes, for sure. So the first month is all about letting go and releasing those old thoughts, those old beliefs. We get to the core limiting belief through the questions that Spirit gives me. And then we go into amplifying your inner wisdom, meaning learning those 5 steps, integrating them into your life, into knowing your soul's calling, integrating that into your work, into your life. And then the last month is all about manifesting the life that you truly want and taking that action. And it's not just taking any action. I spent many, 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 many years doing in-person presentations to the wrong groups, talking about the wrong thing, being too afraid to really show my spiritual self. So I was still taking action, but I wasn't taking aligned action. What is it that you're being guided on through your inner wisdom? And what is that next step? I wrote this down because it's been a question that clients have been asking me lately. And it's a fear-based question of, I just don't know when, I just don't know the when and the how. I just don't know when. I just don't know when. And I just don't know the how. And my response, finally, I was like, well, we can look at it this way or this way, yada, yada. And finally, I was like, you know what? Let's just tell it like it is. I was like, neither do I. I don't know the when and the how. I mean, like yesterday, I was guided, you need to look at Joe Rogan's podcast and you need to see how you can apply to be on there. My inner being was like, my ego was like, abort, don't do it. And I knew that I wasn't quite aligned. So if I were to fill out the form, there would have been fear behind it. So I'm like, all right, I will align with my true self in this because I'm still like, there's some worry about stepping into this big arena, whatever that's, in my brain about. I'm like, all right, we'll just feel into this. And when I know that it's the right time, that I am truly aligned with this next action, then I'll take it and I'll fill out the form and I'll get on the show and I'll have a conversation. Like, okay, cool. Same goes for purchasing this house. We could have looked at several other houses and we looked at some, but everything just didn't feel right. I walked into this house and it felt like home. And that's what I've always said to Spirit. I was like, just show me and have me feel what that's like. And so I did. Other action. So yes, I have found that the biggest difference between those who are barely surviving, making money in their business, and those who include my own shift in my own income resided in me taking action even though I was fearful. So with the Joe Rogan application, it's not that I'm going to put it off for X amount of months. I will shift. I will let go. I know how to do this because I teach it. And I do. So what beliefs are coming up? How do I release them? What needs to be identified? And I'll do it in a matter of moments, a day, rather than taking months, years, yada, yada. Is that explaining what
Yeah, or trying to force it to happen yesterday when it wasn't ready to happen.
Yeah, so if I were to, yes, exactly. So if I were to, like I was starting to say, like if I was to fill out that form yesterday and something just felt off and I was just like going to be like, okay, what's my message? I have to have the message. I have to do this. That would be the energy then that I would put into whatever I was doing. Or for years, when I would do those presentations for small groups or networking groups, and I would give them, I'd be like, okay, this is my outline, and this is what I have to say, and don't forget anything. And now I'm like coming on here, not having any sort of script, and following my intuition, and I'm going to trust that everything is going to be aligned. But I'm not forcing it because I am being it now instead of doing. I'm first being, and then I'm doing.
we're going to take just a pause, and I'm going to shift uh, ideas for just a second,
Yeah, sure.
um, because I'm stuck in my head a little tiny bit at the moment. Uh, I'm in a remote location that I broadcast multiple times from in the past, and we're having like this like thunderstorm that's kind of like coming over, and it's gotten really dark. And I realize that the light doesn't, I feel like I'm in the dark sitting here, even though in the past I've done it because it's been like bright sunny days, and everything worked out good. So I just wanted to acknowledge that so that I don't have to think about it anymore or feel like people are wondering why is it so dark there. And I'll also throw it out there as uh, a warning if suddenly like my electricity were to go out or something like that, which
Okay.
would,
Yeah, for sure. Stay safe.
yeah, we'll probably put an end to the show. So anyway, we hope that we're not going to put that energy out that we want that to happen. But I'll just throw that out there. Is that's the reality? Is there's like weather passing through the northeast part of our country right at the moment, a thunder shower. So
All right.
all righty.
Yeah.
The one of the ideas I had in my monologue that I realize now that I didn't include, so I'll just bring it in
Yeah, sure.
over when I was not trusting my instincts, and I was like I would hear an instinct and then I would right away like transfer it to the thinking part, to the brain, the human brain, and I would start like making a list of pros and cons, and that whole thing, which I became an expert at doing. There were times that I would still override like the logical answer, and I would do what I wanted to do just because it felt right. I kind of only have come to realize this as I sort of like think back and realize it, and that was me following my instinct, and it was sort of defying logic for me to do that, and yet it was like listening to that inner knowing. So the inner knowing is going to work whether we want it to or not. It's really a question of whether we trust it and listen.
Hmm. Yeah, it's always working for the best and highest good for you and others. And so knowing that and knowing that you're always taken care of, that is one thing that Spirit wants me to emphasize while we're talking, is that in the individuals who are stepping into this next round of amplifying their inner wisdom is this concept of self-doubt, questioning, double questioning, triple questioning if what they're doing is the right thing to be doing. And what Spirit was saying is what we, Spirit, your angelic guides, want you to know is that you are always taken care of. And when the individual, when I choose to finally let go of that worry, that anxiety, that stress, and whatever it is that you're thinking about and feeling, then your guides, Spirit, your inner wisdom can step in and arrange for everything to already be being taken care of. This purchase of the home, like I was so worried about the how for a good solid couple of days, and Spirit's over here, my inner wisdom is telling me it's already taken care of, it's already done. Like this is going to be your home for the next 18 years. Like, and I almost feel hesitant in sharing with us now because it's not a done deal, but I'm going to trust. And so I'm like, all right, okay, I will trust. And everything that I was concerned about or that I desired, I burned yesterday. And I watched the smoke just go up. And I've done that activity several times. And I was like, something within me just let go. So as soon as we let go of that worry, that anxiety, that stress, whatever we're thinking about and feeling about, that's when the universe conspires on your behalf to show up and your inner wisdom or whatever it is that people want to call it to be taken care of. And so these next 8 marvelous, amazing, loving, fun souls that I get to work with, these humans for the next 12 weeks, they are going to be taken care of. And there's a simple, impactful, easy way to let go of the questioning and the overthinking and connect with your inner wisdom, with an invisible realm that is always providing that clarity and showing them how easy it is to manifest what it is that you really want into your reality. And Spirit keeps saying over and over, and I wrote it down as it came in yesterday, but it's like, yes, it's possible, people. It's possible.
I like that you said the double checking and the triple checking and the analyzing. I mean, my goodness, I made a career out of that for a long time. So
and most of the time, going back to those beliefs and stuff, the people that I have gotten the honor of working with have a doctorate in their limitations. So that's not really my job to be like, let's talk about that some more. No, let's release that, because by the time they reach me, they're like, I have this thing that I have to do with my life. I have to live out this nudge. I have been told, and I have my youngest daughter banging on the door right now. So I am sorry, and I don't know how to mute myself. So hang on just a second. Joy, no. I don't know what to do. I'm so sorry. Joy, no. Sorry.
So Dr. Joe Dispenza has this little thing he does when people come up and start replaying the story that they have perfected, that they have a doctorate in, of explaining it. And you know where I'm going with this?
I don't know what he does, but I understand.
Well, what he does,
giggling because
he like lets out a big yawn and goes like, oh, and says, okay, can we let that go now? And and it's highly disrespectful, but it's also, it's like the point is that it is boring. And I came to that point in my own life when I just got tired of talking about certain stories. And I tell like the story I told today, I tell that in a slightly different way than the story of like woe is me and oh, isn't this a problem? It's more like this is it's one thing to tell the story kind of in the past tense, as opposed to telling the story as if it's still happening today. And I guess that's where the boring part comes in. The people who want to hang on to that story because it gives them a feeling of their beingness, is that's their identity. And unfortunately that identity is stuck and not moving forward.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, you've nailed it. Yeah. So, I don't know what else to add to that except for when I love his approach, because it literally stops people in the tracks and been like, are you done? Do you want to tell a different story?
Yeah. What's a better version of that? And when I was I have a guest coming up at the end of the week, a writing expert, a guy who helps with anyway, I love writing, and I've journaled for 10 years. I've gotten to the point where they say just journal and don't like edit it and this and that. I've kind of got to the point where like when I write something that like doesn't, like I realize it's like kind of it doesn't have a positive spin on it, I'll just kind of go back and rewrite it right then and there to, be the way I want it to sound for me going forward, as opposed to that moment of what just sort of came out first and foremost. And so, there's no right or wrong again in any of these approaches. What's good for you, what works for you. So it's just interesting that people do get caught into a path. And I love the fact that your approach is pretty blunt and direct, and let's just get to the core of what the issue is, because once that's really identified and known, all that other detail just sort of evaporates and disappears.
Yeah. And a lot of even those who have done a lot of work, a lot of spiritual work, have done a lot of affirmations, a lot of reading, a lot of self-help, a lot of therapy, the people who come to me that have done all that, they haven't thought about the way that the limiting belief and then working with the subconscious the way that Spirit presented it to me and the way that I share it before. And there is deep healing that happens and these releasing in a matter of minutes that they've been trying to do their entire life. And it's the coolest thing ever to witness. So, yeah.
We have the ability to instantaneously change. Do you believe that?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah. And I've witnessed it. I didn't believe that until I was channeling someone's soul's calling when I lived in Des Moines, Iowa. And I was channeling, it was my first time channeling to a group, first time channeling publicly. And this gentleman came up and I was going to share his soul's calling, but Spirit says, no, there's some healing that needs to happen before you share that with him. And I was like, okay, I'm not really a healer. Like, I don't have any, I wasn't trained this way. I mean, of course, we're all able to if we're connected and all the things, but this was all very new. So I just went with it. And I witnessed through my mind's eye, it's not like I actually seen it. And he had his eyes shut, and then there was others witnessing it. This lava like substance came from here is where I seen and went right into the center of his chest. And what was a big gaping hole at one time, Spirit went in and healed it. And it seeped through every crevice of his body and it was healed. And I just held space while this happened because it wasn't me like doing anything. I just witnessed it. And in a matter of moments that I opened my eyes and he had tears in his eyes and he's like, it's gone. Like, what was bothering me? He's like, you don't understand. Like, I've tried all the things and it's gone. And I'm like, yeah, it is. And that was my like first experience with it. Otherwise, I thought I had to like, I mean, I knew that I could get to the core, but I still thought there was things that I needed to do to heal. Like, and I did not realize until that moment that the healing could take place instantaneously. And then from there, when I'm directed to do it either in groups or one-on-one, that healing can take place. And things that have been mulling around in people for years is released. And it is, again, just the coolest, most remarkable thing I ever get to witness. There is a physical shift in them. And I do everything via Zoom, so it's not even like I'm in the room with them. That would be even more intense of an awesome experience. But you can see a shift in them, and it's like, I don't even need to tell that story anymore. Like, why did you ask me that question? Like, that's gone. Like, what? No. Like, and they instantly are like, they can't even think the way that they did because all that is gone.
5 or 6 weeks ago, I reconnected with a friend that I took an adventure with in this Scotland, and we traveled for about a week. This is 19 years ago. It's just, and we kept in touch a few times over the years, but then just recently we reconnected and we talked a little bit about the experience, and the conversation really was around the fact that, you know, we both had our own awakenings and transformations in our lives since then, and the realization that we're completely different people. Like, it was like, who was that person back then? It was a nice lesson and a nice reminder that you don't have to be, even though there's pieces of who you are and there's memories of that, you don't have to be the person that you were even, you know, a few weeks ago. You can change that quickly. But in this particular case, it was like, you know, there was enough gap of time that the difference was dramatic and obvious and needed to be acknowledged. So I think that's the part of this human experience is going through that growth cycle.
Do you feel that somebody, when you said you're a completely different person, do you feel that one has to become a completely different person / born again? Or do you think that the real you is always inside and it's just allowing that real you to come forward?
Oh, I think it's a great question, and I guess my instinct in how to answer this is that um, I'm more the real me today, and that version of me 19 years ago was like me not me being disconnected with who the real person was. And so
Mhm.
if I the way I would say it is, I believe we come in to the our soul attaches to the physical human body. We are these kind of perfect creatures, and then we learn to be imperfect, and we develop all kinds of neurotic tendencies and insecurities, and so really it's a matter of remembering and going back to that original
Mhm.
thing. So probably what was different then is we were both people who were not really being our true core self at that moment in each of
Mhm.
our lives.
So you were not aligned with your true self.
Our inner wisdom, there was a disconnect between where we were living and our inner wisdom. It was not.
It was tuned down. It wasn't tuned up or amplified.
No. Well, good. Well, while we have just a few minutes left, let's focus back on the course. And
Yeah,
you mentioned that like at the end, it's 12-week course, correct?
yes. Uh-huh. Yep.
And from the big kind of macro level, is it like is there a couple different modules? How does that work that way?
Oh, there are 12 modules. So 12
12.
weeks, 12 modules, 12 videos. Every week you get a new experience, access to those 12 modules, 12 journals is what I like to call them.
Mhm.
Weekly 90-minute group call. It's either I always add in healing aspects, Q&A. It's you become one big happy family because there's like 8, so it's not like 100, and I'm not just yammering at you. We are celebrating one another, we're loving on one another. That's why I like the close intimacy of of maxing it at 8. I used to have like 15, and then that became just me popping on, answering a few questions, and everybody getting like 5 minutes. And that just, I didn't like that. So, now people do the work throughout the week, and then we come together as basically a mastermind. But it's a course, not a mastermind. I don't need to get into that. So that's a whole thing. Yep, and there'll be meditations and activities to help raise your vibration and consciousness and understanding. People have unlimited email access to me, and I'll respond to that within 48 hours. There's a private Facebook group that I form for support, encouragement, and it's only those people in that group, and we celebrate each other's journey and we ask questions in there. And some people who come are have a lot going on in their life, whether it be multiple jobs or family or significant others, and they're just trying to balance it all. So I should always just say it's about 16 minutes a day of life-changing growth, awareness, and awesomeness. So I also want to add in, if you don't mind, do I have time to share this?
Yep. Yep.
I energetically grid, and people don't need to understand that. But what I do is I step in and I imagine that there is this dome. And when people say yes and are entering, that everyone and anyone who enters this group program, this container, that they feel safe and reassured that this is where they're there to be all along. I'm never forcing anybody to do anything. Like, they have their questions, and those questions will be answered. They have this space and freedom to be aware, to understand and know who they really are. They feel guided and supported 24/7 to listen to their inner wisdom and take action on what is being asked of them. They receive transformation when they least expect it. They receive that clarity, that peace, that love. Their manifesting power is amplifying, and they truly receive what it is that they want. Peace and wisdom flows to them and through them. They feel alive, probably more alive than they've ever felt in their life, because they have that connection. And finally, I just infuse it with that everyone who enters is part, it feels like they are part of something amazing. and that they have the support to allow themselves to be who they truly are. So, yeah.
Last question is,
Yeah.
or I'm going to give you the last word, but I'll ask my last question. Why is it that you ladies, the divine feminine, has led the way in this, and the dudes are slowly now beginning to join in? Were they not interested? Were they more fearful? Were they, harder to awaken? What's the story there?
I am not certain if I have the right answer, but I can channel it because it's something that I haven't ever actually thought of. I just do. So let's see here. Why has the divine feminine led the way, Spirit? There has been an energy shift on this planet that for quite some time, the man has led the way. But it is now time for the divine feminine to take the lead. The shift in energy, it's not that one is better or one is weaker or less than, or one is stronger and more than. There is this equalization, this partnership, this wholeness and unity that is happening. And so psychology-wise, what Spirit is sharing with me is the masculine is led more by the analytical and ego mind, and the feminine is led more by feeling and emotion nature. And so there are this equaling out that the feminine is taking the lead by balancing out the energies of both the analytical and the decision-making mind, as well as following that intuition, and the reverse is for the masculine. So it's not that there is this above and below unequal playing ground, but it's that there is this equalization, this unity and partnership that's happening.
And in your course, men are welcome and probably will contribute in a way that would be great for the whole group.
For sure. Yes. Yeah, for sure. And I'm sure if they have questions, I could always ask my husband. What's it like being married to somebody like that?
Well, I like that you early on in the today's interview, you said that he's on his own journey and awareness. And I've interviewed over this last year, since doing this show and this work, many of the women, as they had their really strong awakening and call, the men that they were partnered with for many years weren't willing to, join them on the journey. And it's so it's been a tough time for all of us as we adjusted in this new way or higher consciousness level. So yeah. So I'm glad to hear, though, that you two are about to move into your we don't want to jinx anything, but it sounds like it's there's a knowing, and I love that. And I love that idea that knowing, that's really when the magic happens, right? So first we trust, or first maybe we believe, and then we trust, and then we know, and these are all, trusting's good, believing's good, knowing's better. So
there's a physical. It's like in every cell of your body, you just know. And that's how many of my clients make decisions to work with me is, holy crap, I just know this. I have to do this. And I'm like, all right, cool. So,
all right. Well, if you know that you're supposed to work with Sarah, then go to sarahsparks.love and join the course. It starts, you said October 11th, like a week from.
Thank you so much, Steve, for having me on and this opportunity to share this and connect with your peeps and connect with you. Thank you so much.
Oh, you're very welcome. And please come back again. We love these conversations.
I do too. Yes. Thank you.
All right. Take care. All righty. Well, Sarah Sparks back again. Her course begins on October 11th. Her website right below me. Whoops, where it is? There it is. Sarahsparks.love. Check it out. join in on the fun. Men or women are welcome to be part of the group. So, all righty. Well, that wraps up today's show. Tomorrow, I have Sean Bracey, and we're going to talk about how he is creating speaker albums, like albums for people who have a message, people who have some type of a motivational or inspirational message, and he takes their content and he creates basically a greatest hits, and it's basically a way to let people know in a short period of time what you're doing. So it's basically a way of showing off your best content. So we'll be talking about that on Wednesday. And then on Friday, Robert Palmer, a writing coach, and how he helps people align with their true inner self in terms of what they are supposed to be, using the pen and pencil or paper and or your computer screen, as I like to write on the computer screen. I make no apologies for doing 99% of my writing digitally, but we'll see if Robert's a purist and prefers pen and pencil. All righty, or pen and paper. All righty. That's it. Have a great rest of your day. Thank you, Sarah, for joining us today. Again, sarahsparks.love is how you can join and find out more about her class. All righty. Well, that's it. I'm going to get out of here. I'll see you all tomorrow. Have a great rest of your Tuesday.